The goal of litigation is to come to a compromise that you can live with and is best for your child.
Yes.
Mediators have the same goal.
Thank you for joining us for the Blended Kingdom Families podcast. This podcast is for blended families, the people who love them, and anyone who just wants to improve their marriage and family relationships.
BKF exists to break the cycle of divorce, equip marriages, and unite blended families with the truth of God's Word. It is our hope that today you will receive biblical guidance and practical resources that will bring unity and peace to create your thriving, healthy home. Let's jump in.
Hey guys, welcome back to the BKF podcast. We are super pumped that you're here engaging in this series that we're doing on litigation. And we're excited to jump into today.
Yes.
Before we do, if you haven't already, take a chance, like, share, comment, subscribe, leave us a review. If you're listening on Audible, just know that the full video format of this podcast is on our YouTube channel. You can go and subscribe and get notified every single week. We've really had 2 weeks of really diving into litigation. This is all based on our book that's releasing September 13th called Blended and Redeemed, which we dive deep into this topic because we know how important it is to blended families. So today, we're going to be talking again, what to do before you go into litigation. What are your options?
Yeah.
Because the go-to, I'm going to hire a lawyer and we're going back to court is a little too prevalent without enough preparation of what you can do beforehand to keep you out of this.
Yeah. And, I think one of the first things that you can do is just try to work one-on-one with your ex before going to litigation. Try to talk it out, having a simple conversation. Guys, we understand that not everybody can do that. We couldn't. That was not our situation, unfortunately. But if you have the option and you are willing and they are willing to sit down and try to talk through this before you go into litigation, I promise you it's one of the best things that you can do. The other thing that we always recommend too is engaging a parent facilitator. So a lot of states and judges will appoint a facilitator for each family whenever there's custody orders. And a parent facilitator, it's kind of like a mediator. And it's an opportunity for you and your other co-parent, if y'all are not in agreement on something, can come together with this parent facilitator. They listen to each side and they help you come up with the best solution possible for the situation, for the child, for both parties. And so that is something that will help you make decisions when you and your co-parent are not able to make decisions. And then I just said something a little bit about a mediator, but working through a mediator to come to a workable compromise. So, one of the things that was implemented in our order was that we had a mediator. So that is an extra step that our lawyers took to prevent us from really getting to court or going through litigation again. So if you're not able to come to a compromise with the parent facilitator, if you have set in place a mediator, which is typically someone who has been a counselor or they've been an attorney before, but they help you come up with a solution with your co-parents with their attorneys as well before you can even start the litigation process. So there are some options and some things that you can do to prevent you from actually going into litigation. And those are only three that that I just mentioned, but there are some other things as well.
Yeah. And we're going to deep dive into each one of these. But talking one-on-one, when we say communicate with your ex, so what does that look like? So I want to just lay out a scenario for you that you may be in or that you may find yourself in. So if you're, maybe your divorce is fairly fresh and maybe you have younger kids, I think it's a great idea to, as you created that parenting plan or the divorce decree was kind of laid out, when you're on a good term with your ex-spouse or your co-parent, go to them and say, hey, this is going to work really good for us right now. I also want you to be prepared that as our life develops, because there's a lot of change between like having babies and having a teenager. Maybe you're single at this point. Maybe, what if you get remarried? What if job things change? It's a great opportunity when you're in a good space with your co-parent to say, hey, this is just going to work right now, but I also want you to know that, I want us to have a base of operation. So I want us to have a guideline, but as our lives change, can we be open to opportunities to change this that work for both of us? And it may not be always in your benefit. So we want to give grace in those situations. But again, this is kind of the prelude to having the time when you can't talk about it. So that's number maybe one part of that, I want to go one more, is that if you're in that situation and you feel conflict and you're like, I really want to talk to them about this, but I feel conflict in this, please understand that conflict may only exist on your side.
Yeah.
You could go to your co-parent and say, this is really bothering me. And they could go, you know what? That makes sense.
Yeah.
There's logic to that.
Yeah.
I think we should go ahead and just file this and get it changed.
Yeah.
So don't believe that just because you're anxious about it, that it's an anxious situation for the entire blended family. So be open to having those conversations.
Yeah. And, and just what I was talking about with the parent facilitator as well, if you need help coming to a mutual agreement, that's what a parent facilitator is for.
Yeah.
And typically these are assigned through the court orders.
Yeah.
And so it's just someone that can guide the discussion and collaborate with you and your co-parent to come to an agreement about whatever the situation may be, or maybe it's, time or days, the kid's schedule, things like that. A neutral third party can also provide logic in a situation. A lot of times we get so focused on things that we become blind to maybe some of the things that we're saying or that we're doing or the way that we're reacting. And so we let emotion take over our logic. And so having someone that is not in it and is not in the heat of it can hear, they can pick up things. They're like, well, I hear you saying this. I hear you saying this. And then, they can help provide some perspective on the situation that is more logical than fueled by emotion.
Yeah, I think, again, this one, and then we're going to talk the next one, we're talking about mediators. These two steps are like the preventative measures for maybe, jumping into something you're not prepared or really want to experience, which is full-on litigation.
Yeah.
So the parent facilitator, again, these people are usually either ex-lawyers, they're counselors, or people who have worked in that system for a long time. So they really understand family law. They understand it from a perspective of a legal perspective.
Yeah.
So they're going to tell you, and they're not counselors, though. I want to stress this. They're not going to sit there and go, well, tell me how you feel about that. And let's just listen. And, spouse to spouse, do you understand? No, they're going to tell you, like, I've heard it. This is what you should do.
Yes.
Based upon all those different things that you're telling me. So they're really about giving solutions through a neutral party. And I also want to say, like the newer divorce decrees have these as implemented, especially the different states that you're in.
Yeah.
But you may be part of one of those that doesn't have it.
Yeah.
I want to encourage you, if in having those conversations with your ex-spouse, if you notice that you don't really get along very well, bring this up and say, hey, can we put this in our decree? Because I don't want to be in a litigation lawsuit with you.
Yeah.
And I don't think you want to be in one with me.
No,
so let's put a fail-safe in our divorce decree so that we can have a decision-making process.
Yes.
So go ahead to the last one.
Okay, and the last one, you guys, I talked about this in the three options earlier, which is working through a mediator. And so this is something that also can be court assigned. And typically, you always have to see a mediator before you go to court anyways. Most judges will make it mandatory. And so I know in our situation, we had our parent facilitator assigned to us, but we also had a mediator as well, so that if there wasn't agreement with the facilitator, the next step was a mediator. And that's where our attorney and the co-parent's attorney would come together and we could all sit down and come to a reasonable solution. And I think that's another safeguard and a good safeguard to have, because again, it will keep you out of litigation, which, financially will help you. It will relationally help you. It's emotionally and mentally, it's going to help prevent what destruction could come down the line.
Yeah. And you want to be with experts too.
Yes.
The one thing about mediators that I like so much is they're there to make a deal.
Yes.
That's their goal, is to come to a compromise.
Yes.
Where, we talked about this in episode 1 of this 6-part series. The goal of litigation is to come to a compromise that you can live with and that's best for your child.
Yes.
Mediators have the same goal.
Yes.
They come in and they meet with one party, then the other party. They go back and forth and back and forth until you're like, okay, I see ground here.
Yes.
Who can work with this? So again, all of these things they're the options that you can take before you go into the situation where you're like, okay, I'm signing papers with an attorney, and we're going to start the litigation process, which is an arduous, long, expensive process that is very painful. And I'm making it out to be big, because I want people to understand the gravity.
Yeah.
We do also understand that sometimes it's necessary.
Yes.
And that sometimes it is just a necessary part of the process, but we do want you to understand what's involved.
Yes, absolutely, you guys. And, sometimes it is a good option to make those changes like we've talked about before. But if those are things that can be talked through, and and knowing that you have these options, staying out of a lawsuit it's one of the best things that we can do if we, can do that. So.
Yeah. But we want to also prepare you if all of these things do not work. What do you do, and how can you vision this, and how can you prepare for this? So next week, we're going to talk about finding the right attorney.
Yeah.
Finding the right person to handle your case. And we've got a laundry list of things that we go through that will help you kind of dwindle that down.
Yes.
So
yes.
Again, guys, we're understanding that this is a heavy topic. Mm-hmm. This is part 3. If you didn't watch the first 2, please go back and watch that. Next week, we're going to dive into finding the right attorney and talking more about the actual litigation process.
Yes.
So, guys, I hope you're enjoying it. We're going to get with it. We're going to be with you next week to discuss this.
Yes, you guys. Be blessed in all that you do today.
Take care.
Hey guys, so glad you were here with us today, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
And you can find more resources from Blended Kingdom Families at blendedkingdomfamilies.com. Join us again next time as we hang out with more amazing podcast guests. And remember, nothing will be impossible with God.